Hi everyone, it is that time of year again, October, and so at the end of this month many people celebrate Halloween. I have put together a very simple fun glass for you. What do we have here? It's basically a beer glass. Okay, and I've put a pumpkin on the front and a little bit of spooky writing. There's a little ghost coming out from this side, and then on the back I have 3 more little flying ghosts. Just a bit of 3D fun, and why not? I love to use the back and the front of the glass and that whole 3D visual if possible. And certainly for a fun thing like this, it's not going to take that long, and I think you will enjoy it. I know that I will. Okay, let's get on with it. I have a small diamond in the drill, not very small, but you can see a sort of reasonably small size diamond. This one is a sintered diamond, which is diamond grit all the way through. As I say a million times, if you've just got a normal diamond, that's fine. I am working dry. I am keeping this more like a simple cartoon rather than a realistic picture of a pumpkin. Now, cartoon sounds simple, but if you haven't engraved a cartoon before, right, watch this. Cartoons are not simple. As you can see, I am engraving around the lines. Okay, so I've drawn the cartoon with a black marker. I do not want to engrave the black line. This is hugely important. So what I am trying to do is engraving around it. This is just the simplest thing in the world once you get used to it. But initially it can be very confusing. You end up with what looks like some sort of wacky road map, and you think, well, what am I supposed to engrave next? I know the pumpkin is a little bit more confusing than the ghosts. So after I've outlined this, I will move on to the ghosts, and you will be able to see much more easily what I'm talking about. But I have not sped this film up on this section because I want you to see in real time and rather closely and carefully how I am doing this. Now, what I could have done, where the eyes are, the nose, and the open mouth, I should have, for the sake of you guys, I should have colored in solid, because on a cartoon image, that would be solid black. Okay, right, let's go on to something a little bit more simple now. I'm going to outline the ghosts. Really basic. Cute wee little ghosts. Okay, keeping the same principle. I'm outlining. Well, I'm going around the eyes. I'm making that one up a little bit because it was a bit wonky. Okay. and here as well. If you want to use a smaller diamond, just to be more careful, because obviously you don't want to fill it in, otherwise you'll lose it. And then you've got to get out stones and rubbers and all that sort of thing. I'm keeping it really simple. So anything I want black, at this point, I just want it as clear glass. If you're ever confused about this sort of thing, get yourself some black paper and white pencil and draw it. And get the feeling of engraving cartoons the right way round. Oh my goodness, I see so many where new engravers have engraved the outlines and then got totally confused and have no idea how to finish. Moving on to the lettering. I'm only going to briefly demonstrate how simple these little drops of blood, well, obviously they're not blood, but they're supposed to be something along those lines, or something ghastly and gooey dripping down. Anyway, all I'm going to do really at the moment is outline the lettering. Yes, you will see there are 3 O's, because an extra O makes it extra spooky. Right, I've got a demonstration glass. I'm going to attempt to show you with a really, really wacky, weird looking ghost. It looks more like an octopus, but hey ho. This is what I see so often. A new engraver will do this with outline and then fill in what they see on an image. The eyes and the mouth, simple as. And then what? You've either got to leave the whole picture as an outline so you can see what's going on, or you try and fill it in and then realize if you keep filling it in, you're going to have no eyes, no mouth. So you end up leaving a kind of a funny outline. And basically you have a disastrous mixture of negative and positive. And that's simply because what you should have done is engrave the light, not the dark. It's a very simple rule that you have to keep to. Let's get back to our little ghost. So instead of engraving in the eyes and in the mouth, of course, I'm engraving around them. And lo and behold, we have a cute little ghost with eyes and mouth that are a positive image. Nice big diamond really, and I'm just filling it in. Neatly round the edges first. And I think I've gone to get an even bigger diamond. And just filling it in. It's always a good idea to use the largest diamond possible in a larger space. It just does a better job, especially if you're trying to make it relatively smooth. So here is the comparison, a negative beginner's attempt, and a very simple positive image. I'm kind of considering putting little bits of text texture, well, not a texture, the impression of a groove from the bottom of, or the fold of the sheets, as it were. I mean, sheet ghosts. I don't know what you would call them. Anywho, let's get on to the next ghost. Simple and the same. As you can see, I'm keeping it slow again, just so that you can see how I do this. And I've got the bigger diamond. You may want to use a smaller one for the smaller areas. Of course you can use water, and I was actually just too lazy to go down and get some water, and I thought, just keeping it nice and simple, we'll just engrave dry. And it's not crystal, it's just a normal cheap beer glass, but my diamonds are nice and new. This one is not a sintered diamond, it is diamond coated. So, yeah, I shouldn't really be wasting that on a cheap beer glass, to be honest, because it would have got relatively hot. But here is a sintered diamond, a really big, fat, coarse one. And in 2 seconds, we've done the ghost's main body. And of course, I've sped the film up ever so slightly. Okay, back to the much smaller diamond burr, and I'm literally colouring in. I mean, that's all we're doing here is colouring in. It's a lovely pastime. Really, really enjoy it. I'm not too worried that I am engraving in sort of little round movements. It really doesn't matter in a little space like this. This little witch's hat might be made out of a sort of a leather that has got lots of texture. Who knows? It doesn't matter. It's not a baby's bum. It's just a fake cartoon hat. I just decided, because I kept seeing lines, and of course there's still bits of pen that is sticking out, and it was bothering me because it kept looking like sort of like the engraving. So I've just washed it off. Now we're slowly getting to the slightly more tricky bits. Staying in the lines. Of course, it's easy referring to a picture, just to make sure whatever you've copied, or if you know in your mind, think carefully which area you're filling in. It's got to be the area that is white on the piece of paper. I've grabbed myself a larger diamond here. You can stick to your small diamonds. Don't necessarily grab a big one just because I have. It's far easier to be neat and efficient with a smaller one without going too small. Otherwise, you end up with lots of skinny lines and maybe a texture that you don't necessarily want. But you don't want to use something that is so enormous that you're going to go over the edges. I'm pushing my luck a little bit with this one, to be honest. Okay, looking carefully. An easy way to work it out is to look at the eyes and make sure you don't engrave the eyes. I mean, clearly in something like this, it's not like we're engraving dog's eyes or something, which is quite often I will do those first. But something like this, they're just not going to be engraved pretty much at all. Can you see the eyes and the nose and the mouth have emerged from the road map? As you go along, you see things emerging, and then you can start to fiddle a little bit and change and neaten. I've changed to a much smaller burr. I'm going a little bit too close to the hat, really. But don't worry, there will be an interesting little effect on that later on. I decided to put a gap between the eyes and the sort of pumpkin dent and the top of the mouth. I didn't do underneath the eyes because it reminded me of that clown makeup look, so I've left that intact. And then, absolutely, why not, a tiny sparkle in the eyes. I decided to use water for the lettering. Large diamond, well, fairly large diamond, because these are really blobby letters that are very easily done freehand. I remember doing this at school, and you used to sort of join up all the letters, make them overlap, and it was so easy to play with them. Just very sort of rounded and blobby. Now on to the little drips of whatever, slime or blood or whatever. Okay, so I've got a diamond, and all you do is start at the bottom of the drip and sort of lingering or pressing slightly harder and then flicking it upwards so that it has a much wider bit of engraving at the bottom, and then just flicks up to next to nothing at the top. I did this very quickly, but I think probably make a little bit more effort to have them dripping perpendicular to the ground. It really should be dripping straight down. Well, you never know, the wind might be blowing. Okay, here I have got a Dura White. Now this is where we really start to change what is a very basic cartoon diamond bit of work by adding a touch of something that is not flat white. It's slightly deeper, and it has a different shade. And this, of course, is a little Dura White, which I am half-toning, sort of pre-polishing the blobs. You can see already they've gone a little bit darker. You could actually do the blobs just with the Dura White. You don't necessarily need the diamond. That'll make them a little bit, well, darker still, to be honest. And then now I have a little brown rubber, and this is beautifully polishing them out. Same sort of action, but spend a little bit more time down in the heaviest part and then just flick upwards. Doesn't really matter if the smaller part of the drip is not polished out. I've got a very small diamond in the drill, and I've turned the glass and I'm literally really fussing a little bit. Probably don't need to fuss this much with something so simple, and it's not that important. But I decided it does give an overall look, a much better overall look. just neatening edges. If you see a little bit of chippiness or something like that. Just back to the bigger diamond, I decided to make the bottom part of the hat a little bit deeper, actually. And that is so that my next move will be more effective. Now, I have got an old soft rubber. You can see that I've used it on its side, and I've actually worn it down rather more than I would normally. And clearly you don't want the metal touching the glass. And I am simply turning it over so that I can get some more use out of it. Now, that's what happens if you screw it down too far. So you're only going to screw it down a certain amount of the way, and then hold the little bolt at the bottom. Nut, bolt. I don't know if it's the nut or the bolt. Oh my goodness gracious me. Okay, I have actually looked it up. Bolts have the external threads and nuts have the internal threads. There you go. So I was wrong. Ouch. I'm just a glass engraver. Right, I am using this rubber. It's a soft grey rubber, and I have just very simply run some shading underneath the pumpkin. And sorry about going out of the screen here, but all I'm doing is running it across the top of the pumpkin head and underneath the hat, which you will see it clearer in a moment. And I'm going to go underneath the letters. I'm not being too specific. I literally am just giving a hint of some shading, and it's even picking up some of the rough texture that I have got in the lettering. When I engraved the lettering, I didn't have in mind that I was going to do this actually. But then, of course, I changed my mind. Sign and date your work. Always a good idea.